Banana Breakdown here. Welcome back to our ongoing series on the Fate role-playing system. Sorry about the delay. I was busy getting absolutely ruined by a GM who took my always speaks before thinking aspect a bit too seriously. You'd think after the third diplomatic incident, he'd give me a break. Today, we're talking skills and stunts, the bits that actually let you do cool stuff in Fate. In the previous episode, I covered aspects. Now let's see how you actually use them. Spoiler, it involves dice and poor life choices. But mostly dice. Let's start with the differences between Fate Core and Fate Accelerated. In Core, your character has skills, about 18 to 20 of them, with names like Fight, Drive, Burglary, and Rapport. Each one represents something specific your character knows how to do. Accelerated, meanwhile, keeps it dead simple, with just 6 approaches: careful, clever, flashy, forceful, quick, and sneaky. These aren't specific skills, but rather ways your character does, well, everything. Think of it this way. Skills are what you do. Approaches are how you do it. Same problem, different solution. Let's see this with an example. You're facing a locked door. In Core, you'd use the burglary skill to pick the lock. But in Accelerated, you could try several approaches to get through that same door. You could be careful, trying to pick the lock without making a sound. You could be clever, analysing the mechanism to find its weakness. Forceful, kicking the door down. Quick, getting through before anyone notices. Flashy, picking the lock, while simultaneously distracting guards with an impromptu song. Or sneaky, somehow slipping through without anyone knowing you were there. Same problem, but the approach defines your character's style. A wizard and a thief might both open the door, but how they do it tells us who they are. This is why Accelerated is brilliant for beginners or one-shot games. You don't need to worry if your character picked the right skill for a specific situation. Just use whatever approach suits your character's style. In Core, your detective might have high investigation, but low athletics. In Accelerated, she might be great at doing things carefully or cleverly, but rubbish when trying to do anything forcefully. Both systems create interesting characters with strengths and weaknesses, just through different mechanics. Right, if you're playing Fate Core, you'll be using skills, so let's break down how they work. Skills in Core use what we call the skill pyramid. It's exactly what it sounds like. A pyramid of skills ranging from your best to your merely adequate. Here's how it works. You get 1 skill at great +4, 2 at good +3, 3 at fair +2, and 4 at average +1. Everything else is mediocre, 0. Which is a fancy way of saying you're just an average person at those things. Nothing special, nothing terrible. The pyramid forces you to make choices. You can't be brilliant at everything. Let's see this in action. Say you're creating Captain Rex, a space pirate. His pyramid might look like this. Great +4, pilot, good +3, shoot, intimidate, fair +2, fight, notice, athletics, average +1, burglary, contacts, physique, will, everything else, mediocre 0. This tells us immediately who Rex is. He's an exceptional pilot who's good with a blaster and at scaring people. He can handle himself in a fight and is reasonably fit. He knows some shady people and can pick a simple lock. But he's completely average at things like rapport, being charming, crafts, fixing things, or law, knowing stuff. Put him at a fancy diplomatic dinner or ask him to explain ancient history, and he's just some bloke trying his best. This creates characters with clear strengths and weaknesses, and that's where the interesting stories happen. Nobody wants to read about someone who's brilliant at everything. We want to see how Captain Rex talks his way out of that royal gala when his rapport is rubbish and he's just insulted the ambassador's hat. Now, if you're playing Fate Accelerated, you'll use approaches instead. Unlike Core's massive skill list, Accelerated gives you just 6 approaches that govern everything you do. They tell us how your character solves problems. You'll rate these approaches from +0 to +3, with 1 at +3, 2 at +2, 2 at +1, and 1 at 0. Let's go through what each approach means. Careful is about taking your time, paying attention to detail, and making sure things are done right. The lockpicker, the sniper, the chess player. Clever is about solving problems with your mind, finding creative solutions, applying knowledge, outsmarting opponents. The detective, the scholar, the con artist. Flashy is about style and attention, drawing eyes, impressing others, and being spectacular. The performer, the swashbuckler, the charming diplomat. Forceful is about raw power, whether it's physical strength, forceful personality, or sheer determination. The warrior, the intimidator, the stubborn negotiator. Quick is about speed, fast reflexes, thinking on your feet, getting there first. The runner, the quick draw, the witty comeback artist. Sneaky is about being subtle, hiding, deceiving, and catching others off guard. The thief, the spy, the liar. Let's create Zara, a cat burglar. Her approaches might be flashy, +0, she avoids drawing attention. Forceful, +1, decent strength when needed. Careful, +3, meticulous planning is her specialty. Clever, +2, good at solving security puzzles. Quick, +2, fast when she needs to be. Sneaky, +1, surprisingly not her highest. She relies more on careful planning than natural stealth. This tells us Zara isn't your typical smash-and-grab thief. She's a planner who cases joints thoroughly before making her move. She solves problems with patience and precision, rather than rushing in or relying on stealth alone. The brilliance of approaches is that your character's style remains consistent across different tasks. Zara will tackle everything carefully, whether she's cracking a safe, cooking dinner, or even fighting if she has to. Her methodical nature defines her. Approaches create characters with consistent personalities, using far fewer numbers than Core. It's elegant, really. Now for the spicy bits. Stunts. These are your character's special tricks, the things that make them unique beyond their skills or approaches. Think of stunts as your character's signature moves, the things they do that others simply can't. In Fate Core, stunts typically do one of 3 things. First, they give you a +2 bonus to a skill in a specific situation. Second, they let you use a skill in a way that bends the rules. Or third, they give you a special exception to the rules in limited circumstances. Let's look at some examples of the first type, the +2 bonus. Because I am a master of disguise, I get +2 when I use Deceive to create advantages related to my false identity. This stunt doesn't make you better at all Deceive rolls, just when you're leveraging a disguise. Maybe you're rubbish at lying on the spot, but give you a costume and a backstory, and you're brilliant. Now for the second type, using skills in new ways. Because I'm a combat pragmatist, I can use Notice instead of Fight to attack when I've created an advantage related to spotting a weakness. This one's interesting because it lets you swap skills when conditions are right. Maybe your character isn't particularly strong, but they're observant. This stunt lets them use that observation to target vulnerable spots, instead of relying on brute force. The third type breaks rules in specific ways. Because I'm always armed, once per session, I can declare that I have a small weapon available despite circumstances where that would normally be impossible. This doesn't boost a skill or swap skills, it just lets you do something that normally breaks the rules. You've been captured and stripped of weapons. Not completely, as it turns out. The formula for a good stunt often looks like this. Because something special about me, I can do something neat when specific circumstance. The trick is being specific enough to be interesting, but not so narrow you'll never use it. Get +2 to fight when holding a sword is painfully dull and probably too broad. Get +2 to fight when defending innocence against overwhelming odds while making dramatic declarations about justice. Now that's a stunt with personality. Stunts in Fate. Accelerated work the same way as in Core, but they modify approaches instead of skills. The categories remain similar. Bonuses in specific situations, using approaches in unusual ways, or breaking rules in limited circumstances. Let's see some examples. Because I'm a trained acrobat, I get +2 when I quickly overcome obstacles involving physical barriers. This gives a bonus to quick, but only in specific circumstances. Or, because I'm a clever trash talker, I can use clever instead of forceful to create advantages in a fight by insulting my opponents. This lets you use an approach in a situation where you normally couldn't. And finally, because I'm always prepared, once per session, I can declare that I happen to have the perfect tool for a job. This breaks the rules by letting you have equipment you didn't explicitly say you were carrying. The key difference in Accelerated is that your stunts will likely be broader in application, since approaches themselves cover more ground than individual skills. An acrobat stunt in Core might only apply to athletics roles, but in Accelerated, it could apply to any quick approach. Whether you're dodging arrows, grabbing something before it falls, or even making a quick retort in conversation. This doesn't make Accelerated stunts more powerful, just more versatile in how they can be narratively applied. Your GM will ensure nothing gets out of hand. You typically get 3 stunts at character creation, though you can have up to 5 by reducing your starting fate points. Each stunt beyond 3 costs you 1 fate point from your initial refresh, which starts at 3. More stunts means more specific capabilities, but fewer fate points means less ability to invoke aspects when you need them most. It's a genuine trade-off that depends on your playstyle. Let's talk about making stunts that don't make your GM weep into their notebook. Creating effective stunts is part mechanics, part creativity, and part knowing your character. First rule, make stunts that reflect who your character is. A bookish scholar shouldn't suddenly have martial arts master without a good backstory explaining it. Your stunts should feel like natural extensions of your character, concept, and aspects. For instance, if your character has the aspect former circus performer turned private eye, stunts like acrobatic escape or read body language make perfect sense. Master hacker probably doesn't. Second rule, make sure your stunts will actually come up in play. A stunt that only triggers when fighting underwater during a full moon while reciting poetry isn't a stunt. It's a waste of space on your character sheet. Unless you're playing in a very specific campaign about underwater lunar poetry battles, which actually sounds quite interesting. This doesn't mean your stunt should apply to everything. Get +2 to all rolls isn't a stunt. It's cheating. The sweet spot is a stunt that will come up regularly, but not constantly. Third rule, make stunts interesting. +2 to notice is boring. +2 to notice when investigating crime scenes because I have seen things no person should see. That tells us something about your character while being useful. Let's fix some boring stunts. Boring. +2 to drive when in a car chase. Better. Because I'm a demolition derby champion, I get +2 to drive when using my vehicle to damage others. Boring. I can use fight to intimidate people. Better. Because of my prison yard education, I can use fight instead of provoke to intimidate someone when I can demonstrate my capacity for violence without actually hurting them. See the difference? The better versions tell us something about the character while giving a useful mechanical benefit. Fourth rule, don't worry about perfect balance. Fate isn't about min-maxing your character, it's about telling good stories. If a stunt seems too powerful in play, your GM will talk to you about adjusting it. That's part of the collaborative nature of Fate. Here's a process for creating stunts. 1. Identify something unique about your character. 2. Decide what mechanical benefit it should provide. 3. Add appropriate limitations to keep it interesting. Test it to see if it's something you'll actually use. 5. Refine it based on gameplay. And remember, stunts can evolve over time. If a stunt isn't working or isn't coming up in play, talk to your GM about changing it. Fate is flexible that way. Now, the real magic of Fate happens when these systems work together. Your aspects tell us who you are, your skills or approaches tell us what you're good at, and your stunts give you special tricks. Together, they create a complete character. Let's see this in action with a Fate core example. Say you've got the aspect Reformed Cat Burglar, the skill burglary at great +4, and the stunt, because I'm light-fingered, I get +2 to burglary when picking pockets unnoticed. You're at a fancy party trying to steal a key from the host's pocket. Here's how it works. First, you roll your burglary skill, which is great +4. Then you might spend a fate point to invoke your Reformed Cat Burglar aspect for another +2. Your stunt gives you +2 because you're picking pockets. That's potentially +8 before you even roll the dice. The same concept applies in Accelerated. If you have Former Circus Performer as an aspect, Quick at Good +3, and a stunt, because I'm an acrobat, I get +2 when I quickly overcome physical obstacles. Then trying to leap across rooftops becomes your specialty. The key is creating a character whose pieces all tell the same story. Your aspects should hint at what skills or approaches you'll be good at, and your stunts should enhance those strengths or cover specific weaknesses. This doesn't mean you should make one-dimensional characters. The best Fate characters have surprising elements and interesting contradictions. Maybe your cat burglar is also a classical music enthusiast. That creates story opportunities and makes them more than just their profession. Look for opportunities to create synergy between your character elements. If your high concept is disgraced noble turned street fighter, then having high fight or forceful makes sense. A stunt like, because of my noble education, I can use law instead of contacts when dealing with aristocracy. Bridges your past and present in an interesting way. This interconnectedness creates characters that feel cohesive and compelling, rather than just a random collection of game elements. And there you have it. Skills, approaches, and stunts in Fate. Together with aspects, they form the complete picture of who your character is and what they can do. Let's recap the key points. Skills in core are what you do. Approaches in Accelerated are how you do things. The skill pyramid forces you to prioritize what your character is best at. Approaches create a consistent style for how your character solves problems. Stunts give your character special abilities that reflect their unique qualities. All these elements should work together to tell a cohesive story about who your character is. The beauty of this system is that it focuses on your character as a person, not just a collection of numbers. Your choices create a narrative framework before the game even begins. Whether you choose core or accelerated depends on what kind of game you want to play. Core gives you more granularity and specific competencies. Accelerated gives you a simpler, more stylistic approach that's quicker to learn and play. If this video helped you understand skills and stunts, give it a thumbs up. If you're still confused, give it a thumbs up anyway. It's good for my ego, and the algorithm gods must be appeased. Drop your best stunts in the comments below, and I'll rate them on a scale from mildly clever to why hasn't your GM banned this yet. Don't forget to subscribe for the rest of this series where we'll cover actions, the fate point economy, and actually running a game. Until then, this is Banana Breakdown, putting the kettle on for another cup. Cheers.